a good guest on. I've got Cindy Nelson on. She used to be with the Orland Fire Protection District. I want to have her basically talk about how she decided to get involved in local government, because we got local races coming up in 3 months. But Cindy, before we get to you, you are also an Orland Park trustee. So you now serve on the Village of Orland Park's governing board. And we have a caller who wanted to kind of ask you a question. So we're going to turn it over to Tom from Blue Island. Tom, thanks for joining us on The Real Story.
Hi, Jeannie.
Hello. Are you putting my guest on the hot spot or what?
Yeah, I haven't seen you since the golf outing a year ago. So.
No, but are you going to put my guest Cindy on the hot spot? You got a tough question for her?
I don't know how tough of a question it is, Jeannie, but okay. I guess she'll be the one that's able to decide that, or dismiss it out of hand. A business that I do a lot of work for in Orland Park. I'm a contractor, as you know, and I have been doing work for this customer for many years. Received a voicemail, which I'll gladly forward to you. This individual, has donated little bits of money to Keith Pekau over the years, as I have out here in Blue Island, to the mayor. You do that stuff in the, out of the idea of that they're doing a good job and that they're serving the community well. And this was a specifically threatening voicemail he received, questioning the sanitary status of his restaurant, and if he was getting free rides because he was someone that had donated to Mr. Pekau. This gentleman is not he's not like you and me, Jeannie. He's not a political junkie. He just,
He appreciates good government, right? He appreciates good government, and Keith has done a great job on that budget and running things correctly and keeping you guys safe. So he's just, right. So he's not hyper political, but he's like, look, I want to keep him in office, right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and this, again, Jeannie, like I say, I'll send it to George or I'll send it to you. This is it's a specific accusation that he's somehow getting preferential treatment simply because he donated a couple of grand to someone that's been a mayor for a long time. And
well, who did the call come from? I'm just wondering
if she's aware of that, and if this is something that needs to be looked into.
Do you know who made the call? It wasn't somebody from the city or anything like that. No.
It's a recorded message, Jeannie, and it's wow. It's nasty, and it doesn't. The only reason I'm not mentioning the specific establishment is that there's like 3 or 4 establishments mentioned, and that being said, he doesn't want to release something that other people are mentioning without their explicit permission.
Well, Cindy, I'm going to let you respond, but we do know that there's been some really nasty voicemails going around during election time in Orland Park. Go ahead, Cindy.
Yes, Jeannie, you are correct. First of all, thank you for having me on. And Tom, I'm really sorry your friend, had to get what's called an illegal robocall, which, by the way, in Orland Park, there's probably been about 150 of them, particularly aimed at our mayor, Keith Pekau. And it's never with a legitimate source. It's anonymous. I've had them on myself. Our commissioner, Cook County Commissioner Sean Morrison, has had it on him, and with really, really vile things, that accused, me of being sexually assaulted. It also accused me of being a thief. So this is the opposition who, are trying to get back, really at us, the public, because when they do these so often, it is so hard to get good people to run for local office. That is the end game with these calls. They're always anonymous. They don't say who they're paid for by. And we've, certainly tried over the years to try to determine, and we have a pretty good idea who's doing it, to nail that down through law enforcement efforts, of which they are continuing right now. And it doesn't just stop at robocalls. It's also text messages spun nasty to typically myself, the mayor, and again, Sean Morrison. And given the nature of the texts and the robocalls, we have a pretty good idea who's doing it. That's why it's even more important now when you look at the local elections to get good people in office. That's what they're in fear of. That's why these are being generated. And really, I have to say, I feel sorry for our mayor, and I feel sorry for his family, because there's been some really nasty things that have been done to him personally and his family. And, you can have the mayor on and he can share his side of the story, but it's very unfortunate. They're trying to intimidate supporters. They're trying to prevent good people from running from office and just create a really nasty election, where people, having come off of the national elections, quite frankly, are tired of it. But we have to put up with this. And I'm sorry, your business owner. And because Orland, is more pro-mayor, I think that business may even get more business because people don't like being bullied. The public, patrons don't like their businesses, whatever it is, restaurant. I knew three or four restaurants were mentioned in the most recent call. Tell all of our supporters, go there and support them. They're trying to take away their freedom of speech, which is just wrong. So I'm sorry he experienced that, but unfortunately, until this election is over or law enforcement steps in, that's the reality in the dirty politics with dirty people in Orland Park.
So, Tom, can we get that recording to Cindy? Would that be helpful, or you want to check with your friend first, I imagine?
Jeannie, I do have the recording.
Oh, you have it.
Cindy has it already.
Oh, you have it. Okay.
It's already come to me. I've had my voicemail, my phone is filled up with these recordings. So this is nothing new, unfortunately. But now they're trying to target supporters of the mayor who, let's remember, we kept our businesses open during COVID. Okay. And the business owners were so grateful. I had a business owner, and I won't mention his name, that actually was in tears when I was at an event with the mayor, and he said to me, this business owner who owned the restaurant, said, if it weren't for that man standing over there, Mayor Pekau, I would have lost everything. Those restaurant people remember this. That is why he has their support, but the opposition doesn't like it. So we have to stand up to bullies.
It's just a nasty business. Tom, thanks so much for your call. I really appreciate you bringing that to light, because it really goes to the heart of what we want to talk about tonight with Cindy, is like getting involved in local politics. And most people, like I got involved in when I ran for Wheaton City Council because I just saw a tax issue that kind of ticked me off, and I got invited to run for the office, so I decided to go for it. Cindy, you had a similar situation when you first ran for Orland Fire Protection District. What got you involved?
Jeannie, in 1997, we were building a home. And unfortunately, the home, right before it was completed, caught fire. It was a nasty fire. It was almost a total loss and really sad time. And I remember the Orland Fire District responding. And at that time, my kids were little. But I thought in the back of my head, I want to give back. These folks were here because of many other people's efforts behind them, namely their board. So, probably in 98, 99, I started going to board meetings at the fire district to learn a little bit about it. I think I went by myself for 6-7 months. And then I found out about the election in 2001 and ran pretty much by myself. I didn't really know what I was doing, but I did enough to get a lot of signatures, get on the ballot. And then I was elected to the Orland Fire Protection District in 2001.
Okay, great. And so you served there for quite a few years and decided to step away and then ran for Orland Park trustee.
That is correct. And I was there from 2001 until 2007, and then elected to the village board in Orland Park in 2019, and again in 2023 as a trustee.
And Orland Fire Protection District, did the trustees get paid a stipend?
They do get a small stipend. I want to say it's like $500 a month or something. It's not a lot, but it is a stipend. Yes, it is.
Right. But a lot of these local races, like the school district, they don't get paid to do that. I know township trustees do get paid. And of course, if you're Tiffany Henyard, oh my gosh, you're making almost $300,000 between being mayor and township supervisor. But most of it it's really, some stuff is out of control, I would say. I've seen some township supervisor salaries that are out of control for the job that they do. But for the most part, when you're talking about a city council, a fire protection district, these are people that are going through the books, trying to make sure that everything is correct. And that's the accountability that people want. They want to know that when they turn on their water, that the water coming out of there is safe to drink. They want to know that, the fire hydrants are full of water if their house goes up in flames, right? And so, there's a lot that goes into local government. We need good people to run. It just does feel like the nastiness has kept many people away and turned people off from even wanting to vote, because I think we get about a 20%, 15 or 20% turnout in these local elections. And that doesn't cut it, folks.
It's really unfortunate. You're right, Jeannie. And this just, this is what they're trying to do by doing illegal acts such as that, is to prevent good people from getting involved and, the electorate. So they don't go to vote. They're so fed up with hearing accusations and the nastiness that they just throw in the towel because, quite frankly, they don't know what to believe,
Well, I appreciate you, too, because it's one thing to go ahead and serve on a board yourself and do the work and analyze all the information that comes across you, from budget to infrastructure decisions to zoning decisions to you name it. City council is where I think you can cut your teeth on a lot of different issues and learn a ton. And I never dismiss that experience. In fact, it was probably the most valuable experience I had before I became a state representative, was serving on Wheaton City Council. But I will say this. I will say that, unfortunately, the nastiness does come out. But but you're still out there working it, Cindy, and you've got a whole cadre of candidates. Maybe you want to just run down them that you're going to be supporting for local elections in Orland Park, because you guys know that the government needs to work at every level if taxpayers are going to be protected. And so you're actually out there recruiting and helping other candidates run. Who are they?
Yes. To give you an idea, I was elected as the Republican committee person of Orland Township 2 years ago. Prior to that, my predecessor, in my opinion, certainly that of others, worked against the Republican organization, never slated Republican candidates. So there definitely was a gap in coverage and getting people involved. In Orland Township, Orland, Palos, and Lamont Township, really Orland more so than Palos and Lamont, but we are the strongholds for Republicans in Cook County. We have more Republicans in Orland Township than any other township in Cook County. So to have, vacant positions with, maybe not so much like-minded people running and not have the organization be what it was. But fortunately, with the help of certainly our mayor and Sean Morrison and their support, we were able to get 25 Republicans running in local races. Of course, our Mayor Keith Pekau, our village clerk, our trustees, the whole township, supervisor, highway, clerk.
Hey, is there... I'm running out of time. I'm up against a hard break. So is there a website where you have all your Republican candidates that you support that people could go to and find their names?
Yes, it is. OPRepublicans.com.
OPRepublicans.com.
And on Facebook, it's Orland GOP.
Okay. All right, Cindy, that's all I got time for. Thank you so much for joining me and answering Tom's question. Really appreciate you. We'll be right back with The Real Story.
We now return